Well, the United States just committed human trafficking in violation of a federal judge's orders. You heard me right. This big announcement that the United States made that we got 10 Americans out of Venezuela, hooray. But when you peel back the onion, you see how they did it. They took 250 people off the streets without due process in the middle of the night, and they sent them, all Venezuelans, to El Salvador, then claimed they didn't have control over the El Salvadoran prison, which was a lie, then used their influence and their power over the 250 in El Salvador to broker a deal with Venezuela to get out 10 Americans. We call that human trafficking. And no, the ends don't justify the means. And Jeb Boasberg's going to get to the bottom of it. And the part that really chaps my backside is the reporting that happened, because they're always taking the bait in mainstream media. Oh, the 10 got out. But how did the 10 get out? And the other thing they fell for was a position taken by the United States that, don't worry, we'll get them back from Venezuela if a judge orders us to. But that's not what the deal says. The deal, which I'm going to read to you, says if we are ordered and if we can facilitate and if we feel like it, we'll bring them back to the United States. See, that's different. And that's what the American Civil Liberties Union, representing the 250 people, that's what they brought to the attention of Jeb Boasberg. I'm going to cover it all right here. I'm going to break it down to its elemental parts on MeidasTouch and Legal AF. Let's get to the bottom of it. There's a case that we call JGG that we've been following closely on MeidasTouch and Legal AF since March, in which Jeb Boasberg ordered the planes to be grounded and for no more people to go to El Salvador and the prisons there and CCOT there, especially these 250 Venezuelans. One person that went there was an El Salvadoran named Abrego Garcia. He's under the jurisdiction of another judge, Judge Zinnes. Judge Boasberg has jurisdiction over the 250 not named Abrego Garcia, who were not El Salvadoran, who were sitting and rotting in CCOT under Bukele, as the Trump administration lied to the judge about the flights, the flight plan, the injunction, the grounding of the planes, basically telling him, as Emile Bove, who's up to be an appellate judge, said, to go F himself. So the judge at some point figured out he'd been had and issued an order of probable cause to find criminal contempt against the Trump administration. That was several months ago, like 3 months ago. It went up on appeal to the Court of Appeals, or the DC Appellate Court. It got blocked 2-1 by 2 Trump judges. Let's call it for what it is. Judge Katsas and Judge Rayo block it. It's still sitting there blocked. They haven't even moved on it. They haven't asked for further briefing. They haven't asked for a hearing. They're just literally sitting on it. And while they were sitting on it, the Trump administration, emboldened by the fact that nobody was forcing them to bring the 250 back, and there was no appeal yet, and Judge Boasberg was moving forward in his process, decided to do a prisoner swap. I call it human trafficking, which is to send the 250 to Venezuela, which we just got through telling other courts. The Trump administration just got through lying to other federal judges and telling them that we're at war with Venezuela. The Maduro regime is corrupt and it's run by Tren de Aragua, which they use in America as a surge and as a predatory incursion. Yeah? Well, then we just brokered a deal with our sworn enemy in Venezuela. Yeah. And the reason that the ACLU and Judge Boasberg is not happy with how the 250 of their clients were used as trade bait is because of this filing. Here's what Melissa Harper, acting assistant director, like everybody in the Trump administration is some acting interim assistant director because nobody can get confirmed through the Senate, of the removal division of the enforcement and removal operations, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, U.S. Department of Homeland Security. That's a mouthful, barely fits on a business card. So let's go to Melissa Harper. Here's what she has to say. She says that she basically admits in her filing that although she lies and says it was a decision by the Salvadoran government, on paragraph 7 of her affidavit, she says, the Department of State informed me today on the 18th of July that the Salvadoran government, in the sole exercise of its sovereign authority, released a certain amount of people, along with 251 other Venezuelan nationals, to be flown to their home country of Venezuela as part of an arrangement between El Salvador and the Maduro regime. In return, Maduro released 10 wrongful detainees and 80 Venezuelan political prisoners. While the United States engaged in diplomatic efforts to help make this possible, the decision to release the Venezuelan nationals and to repatriate them to Venezuela was made by El Salvador. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. El Salvador just told the United Nations in another case that the entire 250 that were in El Salvador were still under the control of the United States. That is a lie, Ms. Harper. And by putting it in, the lawyers have suborned perjury. And then here's the part that the American Civil Liberties Union doesn't believe. Paragraph 9, as part of these negotiations, the United States obtained assurances from the Maduro regime. Oh, good. The Maduro regime, which we don't trust and we say is a criminal enterprise, has given the government assurances. I continue. That if and when U.S. legal proceedings reach a stage where the appearance of one of the 252 Venezuelan nationals may be called for or required by a court, that's one. If the U.S. government is prepared to facilitate the person's travel to the United States, if they are, and if the individual is willing to go to the U.S., the Maduro regime will not impose obstacles, as if we're going to believe them. So the ACLU filed a paper with the judge, a notice of changed circumstances. I got a copy of it right here. I'll post both of these pieces of paper on the Legal AF Substack. And what they're asking for is the judge, is on page 2, plaintiffs respectfully request that this court request an immediate status update from the government as to whether it is prepared to bring the members of the class back to the United States for habeas proceedings. Because even this Harper person says that they'll do it if the U.S. government is prepared to facilitate. Here we go with the wordsmithing and the games playing and the splitting of hairs again. What's facilitate, they'll say next. What does if mean? It's ridiculous. What have they done? They've human trafficked 250 people in violation of the court's orders as he's trying to get to the bottom of jurisdiction, whisking them first to El Salvador, now to Venezuela, skipping over the United States, all in violation of our due process. Or as Ketanji Brown Jackson says over and over again in his dissents, the MAGA Supreme Court majority, my words, is allowing Donald Trump to operate in a law-free zone. And judges like Boasberg, who's the chief judge, who's well respected by the Supreme Court. He's best friends, or good friends with Chief Justice Roberts. He was the roommate for Justice Kavanaugh. He's well respected. He's a Republican appointed person. He's going to find them in contempt. He's going to hold this hearing. I'm going to come back and talk to you about it. The other judge that's handling the other matter involving the Venezuelan gay hairdresser, who's been identified as Christian, the name, I mean, she's going to be holding her hearings, and Judge Zinnes is still getting to the bottom of the Abrego Garcia and whether the Trump administration is going to be held in contempt then. This is defiance by the Trump administration time and time again, and federal judges need to make it stop. And so does the United States Supreme Court. You know who's never going to stop? Me, on the MeidasTouch Network, on Legal AF, and with you. We need to run into this burning building together. We need to save and rescue our democracy from the clutches of Donald Trump, plain and simple. We will do it together. We vibrate on the same frequency together. Hit the subscribe button on MeidasTouch. Come over to Legal AF YouTube channel, which I curate, Legal AF MTN. Hit the free subscribe button there as well, because we do about 10 to 12 videos new every day on Legal AF the YouTube channel. We post these filings on Legal AF Substack so that you can read them as well. And we ask in return, because we don't have a paywall and we don't have outside investors. Thank God, because we'd all be looking for a new job if we had outside investors and or a corporate parent, I assure you. Heads would roll at MeidasTouch and Legal AF. To keep us on the air, just hit the subscribe buttons in both places. Listen to Legal AF, the podcast. Help us continue with the ratings there to signal that you like that kind of content. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.